Chapter 4. Bonding. Allie Point of View. Luffy was the only one who was openly joyful upon my return, but I could tell that all of the bandits had been worried about me, even Dadan. I saw a pile of cigarette stubs by the wall. Ace returned later with several large fish, and my mouth watered as they sizzled over the fire. As soon as the food hit my plate, I devoured it hungrily, and I was nearly finished when I heard a loud bang behind me. I whipped around, but nothing was there. When I turned back to my plate, however, I saw that it was full again, and none of the bandits would make eye contact with me. I smiled to myself. Bunch of softies. After dinner, I crawled over to a corner and conked out, still exhausted despite my 10-hour nap. The next couple of months passed before I knew it. Every day, Ace raced off into the forest, and Luffy desperately chased after him, trying to catch up. I decided to stay behind and help Dadan around the house. She complained the entire time, but I caught her smiling occasionally when she thought I wasn't looking. I also resumed the training exercises I had learned from the Marines. As we entered the 3rd month, I tailed Luffy one day. I just had a feeling that Luffy's altercation with the BlueJam Pirates was that day. I wouldn't dare interfere, as it was a pivotal moment for the ASL trio's relationship, but I still wanted to be present. As I suspected, Luffy discovered the Grey Terminal, so I sat down to wait just within the tree line. I knew that Ace would have to pass by my location in order to return to the treasure tree. After 2 long hours of waiting, with very little change, I got bored and wandered down into the massive junkyard. As I scrambled over a broken piano, I failed to notice Ace and Luffy traveling back into the forest. I was looking around at the mountains of trash when I bumped into something large. "Hey, get out of the way, brat!" a harsh voice sparked. "Who are you calling brat, jerk?" I snapped back instinctively before looking up at the person I had run into. My blood ran cold, and I swallowed dryly. It was Porshemi, one of BlueJam's men. His fist flew toward my face, and everything went dark. Sabo Point of View. Ace and I rushed to move all of our treasure to a new location. We had no idea how long we had before Luffy told those pirates about our stash, but we assumed he'd blab right away. After a few hours, I left the last of it to Ace and snuck back to the Grey Terminal to gather information. Creeping through the garbage, I hid behind a ramshackle hut and watched a couple of BlueJam's men question the residents. They were still looking for us, which meant... My eyes widened in realization. I needed to get back to Ace. As I sprinted toward the forest, I caught a flash of yellow against the monotone gray, and I paused. There was a body lying on the ground. Now normally I'd pass it by, but it was a small form, with blonde hair and a green dress. I stepped closer, rolling the body over with a shaky hand. The familiar face was covered with blood. "Allie?" I asked, even though I knew she couldn't hear me. She looked like she had been beaten to a pulp. I stared at her chest, watching as it slowly rose and fell, and I breathed a sigh of relief. She wasn't dead, at least. I carefully scooped her up, briefly noting that she barely weighed anything, and set off again toward Ace, my legs pumping as quickly as I could. I arrived at our new stash location, huffing and puffing, and laid Allie down carefully on a patch of moss at the base of the tree. Ace glanced down at me from up in the branches. "Are the BlueJam Pirates on their way?" he asked. Then his eyes fell upon Allie, and he rushed down. "Allie? Why was she at the Grey Terminal? I thought she was still at Dadan's." He seemed just as worried about her as I was. I shook my head. "I don't know," I replied, "but we have a more pressing matter. The BlueJam Pirates are still looking for us. Luffy hasn't told them anything. They're probably torturing him right now." Ace's eyes widened and his face paled. "I shouldn't have stolen that money," he said in a forced whisper. "They'll kill him." Allie groaned, and we both looked at her. Her swollen eyes cracked open, and she let out a strained, "Hey." "Who hurt you?" Ace demanded immediately. Wincing, she forced out some words. "Pirate," she coughed. Poor Shimmy. My fists clenched. It was the same guy who took Luffy. Ace stood back up, my inner fury reflected in his eyes. We'll be back soon, he promised. We took off toward the gray terminal, our metal pipes firmly in our hands. Speeding through the landfill, we leapt over piles of trash and skirted around broken junk, hoping we'd make it in time. From one of the huts ahead, I heard Luffy's weak voice laced with pain. I won't do it! I won't talk! A small amount of relief filled my chest. He was still alive at the very least. I gave Ace a nod, which he returned tersely, and we burst through the wall together. Let him go! We shouted. Ace confronted poor Shimmy while I cut Luffy free from the ropes, supporting his battered body as he sobbed weakly against me. I turned to Ace. Come on, let's go! He didn't move. Take Luffy and get out of here, Sabo, he said through gritted teeth. I won't run from a fight. Besides, he's the one who hurt Allie. I set Luffy on the ground and stepped up beside Ace. I wouldn't let him fight alone. We proceeded to beat the ever-living crap out of poor Shimmy. In the end, though, I had to practically drag Ace away since he kept punching the pirate's unconscious body. We need to go check on Allie, I said, and that seemed to finally snap him out of his rage. Right, he nodded. You grab Luffy. Allie point of view. It felt like I had been hit by a truck. Haha, humor. At least I could still move, barely. I managed to scoot over to a tree, propping myself up so I could watch for the boys, but I had a hard time focusing my eyes as the forest darkened around me. One of my arms shifted, and as I let out a small whimper, a hand immediately released my arm. Sorry, Ace muttered quietly. I forced apart my eyelids and gave him a tired smile. Hey, Ace. Glad you made it back safe. I saw Sabo over his shoulder, bandaging up a sobbing Luffy, and I noticed a roll of gauze in Ace's other hand. You can keep going, I told him. I've had worse. Ace's jaw ticked, but he gingerly reached out again to tend to my wounds. I think I passed out again because I woke up at the dawns the next morning, surrounded by 3 little snoring boys.